Hello. I will be using you because I am discovering about a lost episode of Zoboomafoo. Zoboomafoo was this show on PBS Kids that aired during the late 90s. It was about the Kratz brothers, Martin and Chris, and their friend, a monkey named Zoboomafoo. The Kratz brothers would teach kids about animals like they do in Kratz Creatures, only they're not cartoons in this show. Zoboomafoo was played by a real monkey and by a puppet for when he needed to talk. In the show, he could only talk after he was fed. As it was a kid's show, it was really nice and kid-friendly, except for this one episode that I saw recently. My mom used to record Zoboomafoo for me when I was a little kid, so I could watch after coming home from playing t-ball. But I remember that one night, around Halloween, Mom said the tape didn't record, so I didn't get to watch the episode. But as I was cleaning out my mom's basement looking for things to sell on eBay, I found a bunch of old VHS tapes. Most were home movies and stuff like that, but there was one that didn't have a label on it. Curious, I popped it into the VCR in the downstairs TV. It was that episode of Zoboomafoo that I never saw. I knew it was the episode because it was a Halloween-themed episode. I was so excited that I was finally gonna get to see this episode that I'd missed. Everything started off pretty normal at first, the theme song playing. Then we got to the main set, which was decorated in Halloween stuff like jack-o'-lanterns and fake cobwebs and things like that. Chris was dressed like Dracula and Martin was dressed like Frankenstein, or it might have been the other way around. I always confuse them. Then Zoboomafoo came in. When they went to the food dispenser to feed him, it didn't give out normal food like bamboo or cucumbers. Instead, it gave out small human fingers. They looked super realistic, with jagged flesh and blood on the ends. They were small, so they were probably children's fingers. When Zoboomafoo ate them, he spun around and shouted, "Zoboomafoo!" like he always does, but then it switched to the puppet. It looked weird. The eyes looked angry and bloodshot, and some of the fur was falling off. The first thing he said was, "Hey dipshits, took you long enough." "Zabu, that's not nice," Chris and or Martin said to him. "Yeah, well, lots of animals aren't nice. Maybe you should teach some of the little brats about them." And then he bounded away. "Boy, I really wonder what's gotten into Zabu," one of the brothers said to the other. "Maybe it was something he ate," the other responded. "Well, he may have been rude, but Zabu is right. Sometimes animals aren't very nice. In fact, sometimes they can be downright scary." Then we saw a bunch of clips of animals attacking people, like sharks, lions, and horses. The footage wasn't very great, and looked more like somebody's home movies. They were extremely graphic, lots of blood and gore that I can only imagine was totally real. The Kratz didn't do any of their usual narration of these clips, just the happy music playing over them as always. When we cut back to the set, Chris and Martin was talking about vampire bats. In a corner, Zoboomafoo, the real one, not the puppet, was sitting on a table, masturbating. Nobody seemed to have noticed. Then the brother went over to a table where two vampire bats were sitting around a small dish, drinking blood from it. Chris and Martin were talking about how much blood they drank, and as he was talking, one of the bats crawled over and bit him on the finger. He shouted, "Motherfucker!" before hurling the bat at the wall. The bat hit the wall, and its skull cracked, splattering blood all over the wall. The scene then abruptly cut to Jackie. Jackie was standing outside a house where a bunch of ambulances and police cars were lined up on the street. Jackie explained that the house belonged to a woman who owned a pet chimpanzee, who attacked her and killed her. As she was talking, the woman's body was being carried out on a stretcher, her face completely mangled and covered in gore, her nose dangling off of her face. Jackie then warned the kids not to get pets they can't handle. Back at the set, a Komodo dragon wandered in, and the Kratz were talking about how dangerous they are. But as they were talking, Zoboomafoo kept throwing his feces at them. They tried to dodge the shots and kept proceeding like nothing was wrong. Occasionally, the camera would switch back to Zoboomafoo. Both the puppet and the real monkey were throwing poop, with the puppet throwing in lines like, "Eat shit, bitches!" Finally, Chris and/or Martin shouted, "Fuck this!" and he stormed over to where Zoboomafoo was. He grabbed him. At first, he grabbed the puppet, but when it cut back, he was holding the real monkey in his hands, which was squirming and thrashing around wildly trying to get out. The monkey's mouth isn't moving, but you can hear Zoboomafoo's voice shouting, "Get your hands off me, you cock-sucking pig fucker!" Chris and/or Martin then threw the monkey, the real one, at the Komodo dragon. The Komodo dragon snapped up the flailing body of the monkey and thrashed it in its head from side to side, throwing fur and blood all over the walls. Zoboomafoo's voice was screaming in agony from off-camera as the limp, dying body of the monkey was being torn apart by the Komodo dragon. When he was finally dead, the Komodo dragon started tearing off chunks of flesh and gulping them down. The Cratch brothers just watched in total silence. Finally, Chris and/or Martin put up his hands and said, "Well, that's that," and they both walked off stage. The camera stayed on the Komodo dragon dismembering the monkey and swallowing big chunks of meat until the tape ended. I knew why my mom told me it didn't record. She didn't want me to see something so fucked up. When I mentioned it to my mom, a horrified look came over her face and she said, "Oh shit! I thought I threw that goddamn tape away!"